Peace, family. It's good to be back. Let's get to work. 5 things that Donald Trump has done for black people. Now, I know you all are looking at me upside my head like I done lost my mind. But we're living in some very, very serious times. And the time in which we're living is going to force us to have some really uncomfortable but necessary conversations. This is going to be one of those conversations, and I'm going to try to get this over as quickly, succinctly, and effectively as I can. 5 things that the candidacy and the presidency of Donald Trump has done for black people. Number 1, the candidacy and the presidency and the meteoric rise of Donald Trump has all but completely swept away the notion that we live in a post-racial America, a post-racial society. This is good for black people. When we elected the first president of the United States of America, the first black president, Barack Obama, many of us really believed that we had made it. Many of us really believed that Dr. King's dream had been realized. Many of us really believed that integration, which was brought onto the scene back in the 60s, was finally making sense. But it was not until that black man became the president of the United States of America and Barack Obama had risen to the highest of heights as it relates to the success of this world in which we live. The man was the quintessential leader of the free world, so we thought. But it wasn't until we heard them refer to him as nigger that we realized that no individual can ever rise above the condition of his people, and that not only had we not made it, we have been sold a bill of goods. Why do I say that? Because everything that Barack Obama tried to do of good when Donald Trump came into office, he did his best. He made it a priority to undo everything Barack tried to do, which most of that was not a lot for black people specifically. But when Donald Trump decided he wanted to run for the presidency, and he came out with the slogan, "Make America Great Again," which we know was code language for white nationalist ideals, and "Make America Great Again" simply meant make America white again. And it was a rebound, if you will, of from the presidency of Barack Obama. Were it not for white people having to look at a black man in the White House for 8 years, Donald Trump's rhetoric would not have been as relevant. But he stirred up the bumblebees, and they came out of the woodworks and supported Donald Trump. Donald Trump didn't make America racist. Donald Trump tapped into the racist vein that has been a part of this country, a part of the landscape and the fabric of this country since the inception of America. And what he has done is he's cleared the fog. So you don't even hear black people running around talking about a post-racial America anymore. As a matter of fact, most of us can't even believe we were talking that nonsense when Obama was the president. This is good for black people, because as long as we're walking around and our minds and our heads and our souls and our spirits are filled with this idea of the illusion of inclusion, we will never do what God wants us to do, and that is for us to unite and pull ourselves up by our bootstraps. This is what I call the unintended benefits of a Trump presidency. And whether you like it or not, this is good for black people. Number two, the election of the election of Donald Trump as president of the United States of America has completely exposed American politics for the three-ring circus that it has already become. Anytime a man who is a reality show actor, businessman, and in the midst of the election, he's found on video, at least it was the audio of the video, talking about grabbing women by their private parts. You would think that in an election or in a political system where morals mean something, that would have been the nail in the coffin for his political career. No, more women came out to vote for him afterward. And he won the election via the electoral college system. I mean, we're now talking about whether or not Russia had something to do with him winning the election. Russia? Like, really? This is good for black people because so many of us have mistakenly put our trust in this political system, and we think we can vote our way into freedom, vote our way into justice, vote our way into equity. We really believe that politics is the answer when it is not. Anytime somebody like Donald Trump can become your president, listen, brothers and sisters, this political system was not set up to give you the basics of what you need to survive and succeed. It was set up to make certain that you remain oppressed and that you remain in a subjugated state, and that white people remain on top while you remain on the bottom. It's no different from America's criminal justice system. Her justice system was not set up to give black people justice. It was set up to make certain that it creates a warehousing system for those who are unwanted in this country, and that a profit could be made in the process. The criminal justice system is set up to take advantage of that part of the 13th Amendment that says that slavery has been abolished, except a person should commit a crime and all of a sudden slavery is now legal. The political system is not set up to give you what you need. And the very fact that Mr. Trump is now your president, if that's not proof enough for you, then I don't know what is. So for those of us in our community who put our hope in this political system, I think that the election of Mr. Trump is proof that it's a house of cards and that it ain't worth you putting your trust in. I'll just put it like that. This is good for black people. This is good for black people because we no longer will waste our time putting all of our eggs in that basket. We will go and do something for ourselves and begin to develop the systems that we need to survive in our own communities. It's time for us to do for ourselves. So it's a three-ring circus. And if you put your faith in it, it will continue to disappoint you and subjugate you, because that is what it is designed to do. The third thing that Mr. Trump has done that will in the long run be good for black people Mr. Trump is putting legislation and policy into place that will make it that much harder to close the wealth gap between black people and our white counterparts. Coming out of slavery, black people owned about approximately 1% of the wealth in this country. In 2017, at the time of this taping, black people own about 1% of the wealth in this country. The wealth gap is not closing, it's getting wider and wider and wider. And when you look at the new Republican tax plan and other things that they're doing down in the White House, they're setting up the chessboard for the rich to get richer and the poor to get poor. He's not making the type of promises that others have made in the past, where we would put our hope in those promises instead of putting our hope in ourselves. Yes, I'll say it again. This is good for black people. Trump says that he's going to bring jobs back to the country. And then one of the first things he does is he goes and he revamps and revitalizes the coal mining industry. So he's going to create jobs in the coal mining industry. How many black coal miners do you know? I personally don't know any. The point that I'm making is when he says that he's going to bring jobs back, he means what he says, but he ain't talking about no jobs for you. Brother, sister, if we do not unite and do as the Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught us to do decades ago, put our resources together and build businesses for ourselves the same way they did during Black Wall Street, we gonna starve in this country. The time for us depending on the government to do for us what it is that we can do for ourselves, it's over. That time is over. And Donald Trump, he's telling you to your face. Welfare. Yeah. He's telling you to your face. I have nothing for you except but hard times and bubble gum. And I am fresh out of bubble gum. So, Christians say, I will look to the hills, and when I look to the hills, I will find out from whence my help is going to come. Too many of us for so long have felt like Capitol Hill was that hill. Not no more. So no jobs will be created for black people in this country. The only jobs that will be created are those that we create for ourselves. The wealth gap will never close if we depend on government to do something for us. This is good for black people. I'm not saying it's good for black people that the safety net is being snatched from underneath single mothers who need that extra help. I'm not saying that that's good. As a matter of fact, it isn't. And I'm not saying that Donald Trump is trying to do something good for you. I'm definitely not saying that. What I am saying is this is going to force us to come together. This is going to force us to unify the way we had to unify before integration. Why? Because it was clear who the enemy was. We back there now, brothers and sisters. We're back there now. So we have to build our own economy to ensure our survival. We have to create options for our youth to ensure their survival and our success. So the third thing that he's done for black people is he's eliminated the economic options that presidents before us have lied about. lied about. They promised but didn't deliver. Trump is not even promising. Do for yourself. And ultimately, if we accept this as an opportunity and accept the challenge that is before us, ultimately it will have been good for black people, not because he intends for it to be, but because we rose to the occasion. The fourth thing, Donald Trump's foreign policy and the moves that he's making internationally, I believe, should be the eliminator of all excuses for any black man or woman going into America's armed forces. At the time of this taping, he just announced that he was going to turn the holy city of Jerusalem into Israel's capital and move the American embassy into Jerusalem. Right now, as I am speaking, there are clashes taking place between the Palestinians and the Israeli armed forces, and this will continue. He will not back down from his senseless beef with North Korea. He has Iran in his sights, other Muslim countries in his sights. And don't be surprised if American troops are ultimately sent to Jerusalem in the name of protecting the American embassy and literally obliterating any chance of there being peace between the Israelis and the Palestinians. What I'm saying is we need to stop saying that Donald Trump is a celebrity president. We need to stop saying that Donald Trump is some reality show president. No, you're dealing with a war hawk. You're dealing with a bloodshedder. The moves that he's making will cost lives, many lives, and he knows it. So if you raise your hand today and make the decision to join the armed forces, you will at some point be sent off to war to fight for justice in another country when you don't have justice right here for yourself in the United States of America. Black man, black woman, if Donald Trump hasn't done anything, he's set the stage to where it is so clear that the United States Armed Forces is not a place for you. Other presidents, past presidents, may have glazed it over for you. This one right here, he's looking you straight in the face, and he's basically letting you know we are going to war. So number 4, stay out of America's Army, her Navy, her Air Force, her Marine Corps. This is good for black people. And the last and final one is Donald Trump and his presidency has saved us from what I call the white liberal treadmill. Had Hillary Clinton been elected to be the president, you literally would have had 8 years of virtually the same thing that you're getting from Donald Trump. It just would have been toned down a little bit. See, there's a difference between the alarm clock and then the snooze button. Of course, the snooze button is on the alarm clock. You know, Hillary Clinton is kind of like that person that's going to keep hitting the snooze button for you. As long as the snooze button is continuing to be pressed, you will stay asleep. You'll stay asleep. With Trump's presidency, there's no snooze button. Either you wake up or you suffer. Either you wake up or you starve. Either you wake up or you die. It's very, very clear. Malcolm X had an analogy that he used to give. He used to talk about the wolf versus the fox. And he talked about how the fox was the type that would go and he would befriend his prey. He'd make you think that he liked you. And he would even move as such to where he made you kind of like him. And then before you know it, but the wolf don't play no games. The wolf will come right in and he goes straight for the jugular. See, it's better to deal with a wolf versus a fox because at least you know where the wolf is coming from. Those of you who right now are shedding tears because you see the modern day slave trade taking place in Libya, and you're saying, why isn't Donald Trump speaking out about that? Hell, it was Hillary Clinton who led the charge toward the assassination of Muammar Gaddafi that created the conditions and set the atmosphere for this slave trade to take place right now. This is the woman you wanted to be your president. She's a war hawk too. See, the white liberal is sometimes worse than the conservative white man or the conservative white politician. Why? Because they lull you to sleep and they keep hitting that snooze button. And as long as you remain asleep, they rob you blind. And before it's over, their term is up and you out here voting for some other white liberal who there's nothing liberal about the way they feel about you. They are all the same. But with Donald Trump, you get straight up with no chaser how America views black people. Accept it or let it alone. So had Hillary Clinton became the president, then as a people, we would have just remained asleep that much longer. Why? Because of the snooze button. Because of the snooze button. But with this Trump presidency, the hope and the prayer is that it creates a sense of urgency for us to turn inward and start doing for ourselves the way other intelligent people are doing for themselves. Asian people support Asian people unapologetically. Jewish people support Jewish people unapologetically. White people, let's not even talk about them. They support white people unapologetically. We are the only ones who feel that we have to apologize or we have to explain why it is that we are willing to support one another over other people. We are the only ones that can be accused of being racist for supporting our own over other people. But the atmosphere and the stage has been set for us to develop a Black Wall Street mentality and begin to build for ourselves in the midst of this declining society in which we live. Am I saying that Donald Trump has even an ounce or an iota in his heart? I mean, an ounce of love for black people in his heart? Hell no. Am I saying that we should have supported Donald Trump in his presidency, his bid for the presidency? Hell no. I didn't vote for Donald. I voted, but I didn't vote for Donald Trump. But guess what? I didn't vote for Hillary Clinton either. I wasn't going to vote for one murderer versus the other. No, I voted, but I left the presidential thing blank. Hey, why? Because I have to look in the mirror when I go home. That being said, of course, Donald Trump has no love for black people. The cabinet that he has chosen, and I spell cabinet KKK, ABINET, part of that cabinet's job is to give you as much hell as they can while they can. So no, he don't love you, and he's not intending to do anything for you. But what I am saying is that black people have always risen to the occasion under the most adverse conditions. And we don't have time to walk around with our heads hung down as if though there is no hope. No, there is plenty of hope, but our hope is in one another, not in the government of America, and most definitely not in Donald Trump and this particular administration. So when you take what I said and you put it in the context, when I say that these are 5 things that he has done for black people, I'm not saying that he's intending to do something for us. But if we take these stumbling blocks and turn them into stepping stones, 15, 20 years from now, we will look back and we will say, you know what? Those were perfect conditions for us to create a nation within a nation, separate internally from the madness that was going on in America, and create a future for our children. I hope and pray that this was received in the context in which I put it. Peace.